You can influence people, things, situations to get what you want out of them. But what you want is sometimes it's self-serving, and it's not always what's best for other people.
It's not what's best for you either, necessarily.
Welcome back to another episode of Till the Wheels Fall Off. I am Matt.
I'm Paige.
Picking up where we left off last week with our discussion on high agency, but I am joined by the lovely Paige.
I'm back.
Not just me anymore. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. You did great.
Solo episodes are okay, but it's a lot more fun with you.
I don't know. I think you liked the solo episode.
I like having you here to bounce ideas off of. For my entire life, basically, you've been the person that I just bounce ideas off of, and we feed off of each other.
That's true.
It was just kind of weird doing it on my own.
You did great, though. I liked it. It was a good episode.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I hope that listeners enjoyed it. I hope that it was beneficial. I hope that it left you wanting more, which is what you're going to get today.
I'm excited to talk about this.
This is the real meat and potatoes of the concept by George Mack, which, again, if you didn't check out the previous episode, please do. But for all of this to make sense, you need to head over to highagency.com and check out the work of George Mack. He has written on what he believes to be the most profound idea of the 21st century, which is high agency. What is it? How do you develop it? And what are some of the traps, which we're going to discuss today? What are some of the traps that keep you from being high agency, which is another way of saying from keeping you from doing what you really want in life? This is very applicable to our show. We don't just talk about addiction and the pieces of addiction that affect your life and the relationships and your profession and everything else. This is beneficial to your entire life. Mm-hmm. This is an idea, I think, that really kind of gets in between what we're really after here, what we really try to do week in, week out here. It's been really beneficial to us. So our course, Independently Strong, our course is what it really does. It develops high agency. We actually had a meeting this last week with a company that's going to help us rebuild the website and things like that. And that was something they even identified. So if you haven't checked out our course, head over to our website, twfo.com, click on courses, and you will find Independently Strong, which is an outline to become high agency in your life as it pertains to being with someone who's struggling with addiction. It will help you set boundaries. It will help you develop clarity. It will help you take action, whether that's in self-care or in therapy or in various ways in your life, whether that's, staying at someone else's home, putting down some non-negotiables, establishing your values, whatever it might be, it will help you do that. You can get 75% off that course using the code Wheelies75 at checkout. And while you're over at the website, we've also got all kinds of stuff for you guys. We've got merch, we've got sweatshirts, we've got stickers, we've got hats, we've got t-shirts, we've got recovery rocks.
We're about out of hats.
We're out of hats?
We have like one or two more.
Oh my
gosh. We have 3 more left.
Get them while they last, because I don't know if we're going to make those again.
And it's almost summertime. And that's when I love my hat.
I need to do some new colors this time. Yeah, pink and like a...
Oh my gosh, here you go. Your wheels are spinning.
Anyway, you can get all that stuff there. You can get recovery rocks as well. Hey, cool way to acknowledge the journey of someone who's been through this with you. It's got our logo on the front. On the back, it says, "Thank you for being my rock." It's a really great way to acknowledge the journey that someone else has walked with you through, whatever it is that you are battling today. What else? Oh, newsletter. One didn't go out today. I just took a break. I'm just going to be honest with you. I just didn't have anything to say. And I was overwhelmed with my day job this weekend and I just didn't release it. So
I love the transparency. Thanks, babe.
It just felt a little weird, but hey, I'm going to keep doing it. I just didn't have it in me this week. So I think
Welcome to life.
That just means next week it'll be even better. That's what I'm thinking, probably. We've got a sponsor for today's show as well. SoberLink. Thank you to SoberLink. If you don't know what SoberLink is, think of it as a breathalyzer system, not just a device, not just a breathalyzer. We all know what those are. We used to blow into them in high school and see how high we could get the number. It is beyond just that. The problem with traditional breathalyzers is that typically leaves a spouse or partner in a position where they feel like they have to police sobriety, where you're asking someone to blow into a device. You're asking someone, hey, do you have it with you? Is it charged? Like, you're policing it, right? I think what's great about SoberLink is it allows SoberLink to be the middleman. It takes you out of that position of being the middleman, which is great. So if you're someone like me and struggled with your drinking in the past and you really, really want to show up to your family and say, I'm ready to stop this thing, get a SoberLink. It will help you stay accountable, and it shows them that you're serious this time. And it takes out the conversations of, hey, will you do this right now? I'm feeling a little weird about the way you're acting. You schedule the times, you use the device, it takes that out of the conversation. It gets to a point where it just becomes second nature, and it takes that burden off of your family members, your loved ones, to have to wonder. You can set up sober contacts, so that can be a therapist, a counselor, someone through your church. It can be a good friend, a sponsor. Doesn't matter. Set up a network. Let people know what you're doing, that you're doing the deal. Another way this can be used is in a custody battle. This is great. So if your children are going somewhere, you're not 100% sure if they're safe over there or not, SoberLink will help give you that peace of mind. It has military-grade facial recognition technology, so you know the person using the device is the person that is supposed to be using the device. There's no way around that. It is tamper-proof, and it gives you peace of mind. So you know that when your children are going somewhere, you can trust that they're going somewhere where there is a safe, sound, sober adult present. You can admit this in courts all over the country. Every single state, including Canada, it is trusted by over 200,000 people and is considered the gold standard in court. SoberLink has been generous enough to give our listeners a $50 off coupon. If you go to the website, soberlink.com/wheels, enter your email address in there to get $50 off a device. Again, it's soberlink.com/wheels. All right, let's get on with it.
Yay.
6 minutes. Getting better here.
Not bad.
When you're around, it's longer for some reason.
I know. Do you feel pressure around me? Do you feel like I'm looking over your shoulder, like making it more difficult for you to get it out?
No, but I think that something about this, like, you have dead eyes whenever I'm doing reads, and it makes me feel like,
sorry, you're wearing shorts. That sounded louder.
It makes me feel like, you slap kind of like,
I'm sorry.
It makes me feel like I have to be more interesting to get your attention, I think is what it is.
So you're really thinking about what I'm thinking.
Because I'm looking into the camera.
And you can see me?
And I can see your dead eyes.
Do you think I do check out during the intro. We all know this. Like, it's so normal for me to check out because you do it all and you do a great job. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to let you do your thing.
Man, you're doing this next time.
Are you gonna? I knew it. He's going to push me to do it.
You're doing them next time. How about that?
I really am sorry I slapped your leg. Usually you're wearing pants or something and it's not like.
It's all good. It don't hurt.
It was really loud.
It's all good. Okay. We're going to talk about the idea of high agency again. Expanding on the work of George Mack. Whenever I read this essay, it was just really profound. And immediately both of our wheels started turning. Wow, how is this applicable to what we discuss week in, week out? How is this applicable to discussions around spouses, partners, people who struggle with substance use or sex addictions or anything that's taboo that's out there? How can this help people in not just business, which I think is where Mack spends most of his time in the arena of business, but what about relationships, marriages? This is really, really interesting and sort of fascinating to me that we do have more agency than we think we do. It's really, really cool. But there are some traps that you can fall into that keep you from being high agency. So that's what I want to spend the majority of the conversation on today is these are the traps. And if you remember from our last episode, there's the triangle of high agency thinking, which is clear thinking, a bias to action, and disagreeability. Those are the three. I was remembering the last one. Disagreeability, a bias to action, and clear thinking.
Yes.
Those are the three things that are required to be high agency. So the opposite of that, these are the traps you fall into. And this is where most people fall. They've got one of these, if not all three of these, working against them. You are too agreeable. You have a bias to inaction, and you have very muddy thinking. And how does that affect what you're able to do in life? As opposed to life happening to you, you happening to life.
Yeah.
If these things aren't present, you're going to struggle really, really bad. And I think that I resonate more with this episode than the former. I didn't show up in the world with all these traits, and I don't think that you have either. And I'd say that the average listener hasn't either.
But it's also different within different areas of your life as well. Like you may be high agency at work, in the way that you deal with things, but in your relationship, you might be low agency. I mean, typically that it can be like that in any different areas of your life. So then this can kind of help you in all areas of your life if you want to see like where you are high agency and where you're low agency and what you need to do to, be where you want to be.
Before we get into the traps, and there are, I think, 5 traps of low agency
There's
thinking,
a few.
And also exercises and suggestions for how to get out of them. I think that the first discussion warrants a second discussion, which was a really interesting conversation that Paige had with a friend, and then I kind of had on the side with Paige as well.
I was like the mediator in between.
Yeah, we were having a group chat, but I wasn't.
Y'all weren't together.
Weren't in it.
Yeah.
Sending Paige messages, and she would send them back to the other person. But anyway, can high agency go too far? Is there a time and a place for high agency in certain aspects of your life, and then not in others? And I think the simple answer is yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think that you can look at high agency people, quote unquote high agency, that maybe fit some of these aspects that have done terrible things in this world. Let's just look at probably the grossest example, which would be someone like Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could argue that Adolf Hitler was a high agency individual,
Right.
but extremely horrible person and did some terrible things in the world.
Yeah.
So it got us thinking, like, is there such a thing where high agency can go too far? Is it not appropriate in some areas of your life? And I think for sure, I think in relationships, you've got to be incredibly careful. I think that you've really got to question your intentions and your motives anytime that you're trying to be high agency, because as much as people who are struggling with addiction can be a pain in the ass to live with, I'm speaking from experience here, I think that I have met many spouses and partners as well who are equally high agency in their desire to control the scene, the narrative, the situation, someone else's actions. And it doesn't really accomplish much other than just cause a ton of friction and make the environment, truly toxic in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So let's just say that, I think a lot of mother-in-laws are high agency in the worst kind of ways. That's true, trying to influence themselves, influence the situation to get what they want. I think what it boils down to is that you can influence people, things, situations to get what you want out of them.
Right.
But what you want is sometimes it's self-serving, and it's not always what's best for other people.
It's not what's best for you either, necessarily.
Right. Yeah. So I guess what is that line and how you determine when you apply this and when you don't? And I think that you have to really look at your intentions. Yeah. If you look at narcissistic people, narcissists are probably, if I had to guess, very high agency people. They have the ability to control other people through their actions, sort of their deceptive acts and practices, whatever they do on any given day to get what they want.
Yeah.
But it's always generally a self-serving outcome is what they're after, where I think that used properly in a relationship, it's more of a utilitarian aspect. It's what's best for the greatest number of people, the greatest good for the greatest number.
Yeah.
So let's say that you're in a relationship and you know that you need therapy. There is a right way to influence a situation where you get someone open to therapy. And it's not necessarily manipulation. It sort of is. I guess you could define it as that, but it's influencing their ideas about therapy to get them there so that it's better for everyone in the end.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that craft tries to accomplish this very same thing. The idea is that you get someone open to treatment.
Right.
There's, great ways to use this, but there's also really abusive ways that you can use high agency. There's incredibly abusive ways, I know that some people, like when it comes to some religious context, they will use, it's a form of spiritual abuse to get what they want for their own sexual desires and means. We've all seen those documentaries and things like that come out about how people misuse religious texts in order to get what they want.
Yeah.
And that's high agency, but oh my God, that's horrible. None of us would sit here and say, that's great high agency thinking.
Right.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's very similar to the book. I brought this up to you recently, Rethinking Narcissism, where there's a spectrum. So one end, it's like basically there's 0 to 10. And if you're 10, you're basically a psychopath, right? Like that's the narcissism, that's sociopath, where it's very, they don't care about anybody else and they'll do whatever. They're very high agency. Okay. And then on the other side is the echo, which is like an empath, which is 0, which you have no agency. It's very low agency. You're just like, barely surviving, which is very similar to what we discuss here. And you want to find the middle ground. You want to be like a 6 or a 7 in that spectrum, because there is a healthy dose of narcissism, if that's what you want to call it. This could be very similar. Like high agency, there's a healthy dose of what you do and what your intentions mean and how it affects other people. When in the book, the 10s, they don't care about anybody else but themselves, and they're going to try to do whatever they want to do to control the narrative for themselves. It's not about anybody else.
Yeah.
We're just finding the middle ground.
We talked about, I think the rules are different for whatever game you're playing.
Yes.
And in the rules of relationships, like I think what's best for the relationship is also what's best for me. I believe that wholly and fully. That what's best for us is best for me as well.
Right. It's not what's best for you is what's best for the relationship.
Exactly.
Right.
It's best for us. Whatever's best for us is also best for me. And I think that's part of growing up and maturing, especially in a relationship where you come to understand that it's not just about me. It's not just about me, the individual. At some point, you kind of give up little pieces of you to better the relationship itself so it can move forward, because it can be really selfish. But I think that the rules of the game there are we foster the growth of of each other and the relationship and the family and how we parent and children and everything else. But I think that like when you look at the rules of business,
Totally different.
Vastly different.
Yeah, it is.
Right. You can like the rules of business. Everyone knows what they sign up for. Every time there's a transaction, you know, one person is handing over a resource and giving it to another person.
It's transactional.
It's an exchange of resources. It's absolutely,
what it is.
As well as getting it's transactional. And so within that, you could take advantage, quote unquote, take advantage of someone where you could say, okay, moral principles say you took advantage of them, but the rules of business say that's just how you play the game.
Yeah.
And I think that you can use high agency in business and get away with a lot of things that you can't get away with in a relationship. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So you have to be smart about this and use your common sense.
Exactly. That's what I was going to bring it back to. I was going to tie it all back to just common sense because it really does just boil down to that.
So interesting. I think that that's something that you can sit here and chew on and think about.
Oh my gosh.
Too.
I feel like we could have had a totally separate conversation or a separate podcast episode just on that, on if it can go too far.
Yeah. Because I think anyone who listens to this is going to have that thought, like, hang on a second. Like I would argue like me, when I was addicted, I was extremely high agency, but who was benefiting from that? Me and me only. That's it.
You were high agency in the wrong ways.
Yeah.
It's all about you and what you want and not looking at anybody else. You can be high agency and still think of others. Like we're so binary thinkers. We just think it's either one way or the other when there's really a middle ground to all the ways that we do things and the way that we think.
Yeah. I think that growing up and maturing is knowing when you engage in those behaviors and when you don't, and when it's appropriate to use them and when it's not.
Yeah.
I don't think that you just use it for everything all the time, or then you're just usually characterized as an overbearing person who's difficult to work with. Period. I'm just saying work in like professional aspect, but in a relationship too.
Yeah.
Like you're disagreeable. Like you don't bend. You don't have any give to you. It's just got to be your way.
Yeah.
And technically high agency, but not always the best thing for getting along with other people.
Yeah.
Cohabitating with other people.
Right.
Raising children with other people.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Right. And I also know that the fear of like with spouses, we do have a fear of going too far, kind of like what you were mentioning earlier, is that we do have a fear of going too far. So when we start making changes, we fear we're going to be like the addict and be completely selfish. And we're going to be that type of high agency person. But it doesn't typically go that far. Like it can possibly go that far, but you're really able to stop yourself and correct it and have accountability and figure out when you're going too far. And then you just reel it back in. Yeah. We don't give ourselves enough credit there, I don't think. I think we're too afraid to do it because we're afraid we're going to be like the other person when we really have a lot of clarity where we can reel it back in easier.
I would also... This is something that's served me well in life is test the boundaries of everything and see when it's appropriate and when it's not. And you'll know. Yeah. You'll know when you've gone too far usually. Yeah.
But sometimes it'll lie to you when you feel like you've gone too far when you really haven't gone too far.
Again, our course provides a lot of clarity on this.
Yeah, it does.
The best way we could explain it is in those 10 modules. So if you haven't checked it out, please do.
Yep.
All right, let's get into some of these traps. What are some of the things that keep people from being the highest agency version of themselves, from truly affecting life as opposed to having life affect them? What's the first one?
The vague trap.
The vague trap. Okay.
So that's like when you feel you have this feeling of like, I don't even know what's wrong. This is where a lot of people find us too, because they're like, I feel lost. I feel confused. I don't know what to do. Where am I? I'm not the same person anymore. I'm not living by my values. Like I'm overwhelmed. Like this is where people find us. A lot of people are in the vague trap when they find us, if you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like where you can't even define what the problem is.
No.
You know something's off.
You know that it's the addiction, right?
Yeah.
You think you know. In a way, but in a way, you're like, I really don't know because you know you can't correct the problem on your own.
Yeah, your thinking is very muddy at this stage, and this can keep you from acting because if you can't even define what the problem is, then how are we going to solve the problem? Yeah. All you know is that something is wrong, and that's basically as far as you get it. And we get those messages all the time. Like one of the most typical ways this comes out in words is, I feel like I've lost myself. Like I don't know who I am anymore. And that's usually what this feels like, is this vague trap. Max says in his essay that the average person has between 10,000 and 60,000 thoughts per day. And he's asked the question, can you remember any specific thoughts from yesterday? He talks about how thoughts that feel so real in the moment kind of disappear into the abyss. And what he's sort of hinting at here is that without some sort of concrete definition or without some real thought about your thoughts, they're likely to just sort of disappear. And so the way to get out of this, and I guess the solution for defeating this trap, is we have to start to define the problem. It takes a little bit of work, takes a little bit of effort in order to figure out, how do I define what is actually wrong with me? I've felt this way many times in my life, and I know that you have too.
Yeah.
It usually feels super muddy. Like I remember at one point in my life, I was addicted. We were broke. So you have this feeling that you're not living life like you're supposed to be living it. Like I don't have a purpose in life. I feel lost. I feel like I'm a prisoner of something. Professionally, I was also sort of stalled, and that was weighing on me. And then I was getting out of shape. And so that's weighing on you. And say, what is the real problem? I could have named off a million things. The real problem was, the root of it was at that point is that I don't have any sort of purpose or reason to live.
Yeah.
That's what the real issue was. And underneath that, you have all these sort of like, you can go down a chart and figure out, okay, ask yourself why. Well, why is that? Well, why is that? A lot of it did tie back to the fact that I was hopelessly addicted to opiates.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of everything else. But you take care of that, and it starts to make clear what you really need to do in life, which is why early recovery is like, it's the biggest dupe of all time, because you think you remove the substance and you fix the problem. If you've identified the substance as the whole problem, you probably haven't thought hard enough or long enough, because it has reasons, right? Why do I use the substance?
Yeah.
Well, there's a million reasons.
Right.
What about for spouses? Like, do you remember feeling this way at a certain point in your healing?
Yeah, I felt this way whenever, especially when you got sober, because, it was a few years down the line and I was feeling like something's wrong with me. Like something's wrong with me. What is wrong with me? I'm so overwhelmed. I shut down. I don't feel like I was depressed. I was super anxious. I wasn't really taking care of myself, and I couldn't really figure out what the problem was, because I felt like, well, everything's fine. I have we had money at that time. We were finally earning back what you had lost for so long. Yeah. We had 2 beautiful children. We had a marriage that we were working on. We had a home. We were building on things, and I was like, something is not right here. I just felt like something was off. I felt overwhelmed, and I didn't know what it was. Yeah. Until I finally, got help and realized, oh, okay, well, that's what it was. Like I didn't deal with the shit that I dealt with years prior with you.
What about since then? I know that like you've talked about taking like social media breaks. You've talked about feeling just overwhelmed in general. What does it feel like in the beginning versus how do you actually identify what the problem is?
How does it feel?
Yeah.
Feels like you can't figure out what the hell it is. You just feel super overwhelmed, and you kind of become angry with yourself because you're like, I can't figure out how to fix this. What is wrong? Why can't I figure this out? Why am I overwhelmed? Why do I need these social media breaks? Why do I need this stuff? Like, it just feels like you can't do anything.
Yeah. Feeling anxious, feeling just overworked, but at the same time, you feel like you're getting nothing done. It's the strangest feeling in the world.
Yes, it is.
And it's sort of hard to like put a definition on what vague feels like what is vague. I think the definition is rather vague.
Right. Right.
Yeah. You'll know it when you feel it. So to get out of it, let's go through an exercise here.
Okay.
Run us through it. We had like several. Which one did we settle on?
Oh, there was one. It was a voice memo.
The voice memo. That's a good one. Okay.
That was the one that you said that you do.
Here's what I've done. And so what does Max say before we go further? Let's see what the expert says. He says, define the problem in simple words outside of your head. So he talks about having an issue with a career, right? The vague question is, what career should I choose? Specific question. He says, drill down, get more specific. What does my dream week look like hour by hour? Literally think about that and how long this would take you. This would take you a little while.
Oh, yeah.
Hour by hour, right? Excluding sleep. How would or maybe it does include sleep too. Maybe you want to have well rested as part of your dream work. But anyway, what does your dream week look like hour by hour? What does my nightmare week look like hour by hour? And what's the gap between my current week and the dream/nightmare week? I think you have to be specific about what you want. So ask specific questions. He says, write down your thoughts, draw the problem, use a whiteboard, create a spreadsheet, talk out loud to a smart person, whatever you do. Have a specific question in mind. He says, go for a walk with a specific question. So here's what I've done. Oftentimes when I drive is when I find that I have some of the clearest thinking. It's either driving or exercising. And I've done this both driving and exercising. I will have my AirPods in, and I have an iPhone. I'm sure the Androids have an equivalent, some kind of a notes app, whatever it might be. And you can dictate, you can voice, you can talk to your phone and it starts to record what you're saying. It doesn't get all the words 100% because here's what I do. I just start to dump. I just trauma dump onto my poor phone about everything that I'm feeling, everything that I'm going through, all the different problems, whatever it is. And AI is a wonderful tool. It annoys the shit out of me because I think that we've lost so much personal touch and creativity and authenticity because of AI.
Yeah.
But AI is also good at taking a rather complex set of data and simplifying it.
Yes, then it makes sense.
So
like,
I will have like pages of talking to my phone, and I will copy paste, dump it into AI, and I'll say, what is the problem? What am I really struggling with? And it has helped me narrow down problems like you wouldn't believe. Sometimes it's as simple as you need to have that difficult conversation with that person, because a lot of things will be building off of that, but I won't be able to see it in the moment because it just seems so vague.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with a lack of motivation, or I'm struggling with feeling less than. I'm struggling with feeling like I'm not where I should be in life, or whatever it might be. And a lot of these things can be fixed with having that conversation with that person. Just go ahead and schedule that coffee or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And it's solved some problems for me. I would suggest you try it. Give it a shot. I know it sounds weird, but
no,
give it a
I
shot.
started doing that last week actually with some issues that I had. I was like, can you, it was after I read this essay. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going down this freaking rabbit hole of thoughts and I could talk on this forever. And I just have so much I want to say about it. But it had me thinking of some experience that I was going through, and I put it into AI and I was like, okay, can you just help me break this down? And it was like, oh, thank you. Like, you helped me identify something that was rather vague. And like, I think that somebody outside, like outsiders, we're very big on saying like outsiders notice your situation a little bit better than you do in a way.
Or even your closest insiders.
Or your closest insiders. But usually you don't know much of what's going on because you're just in your head and you're trying to solve problems by yourself. It doesn't always work that way. But it just had me thinking of like looking at outsiders or even looking at chat sometimes and being like, okay, can you help me break this down? And it helps you see things a little bit more clearly. Same with like with somebody giving you some outsider advice. It's like, oh, they can see your situation a little bit more clear. But you might think it's more complex when it's really not.
Yeah. Therapists can be great here.
Yep.
Mentors can be even better because they'll actually talk back, as opposed to a lot of therapists. Their job is to hold a mirror up.
Right.
Not necessarily to give you life advice.
No.
Like the smartest person, find them, grab a coffee with them. But the AI trick is really easy because you can do it anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, for sure.
AI
It's a
doesn't
quick
sleep.
little thing. Yeah.
You don't need to schedule time with it. It's just there.
No.
But it's pretty freaking awesome and kind of scary how good it is extracting the relevant information to help you come to a conclusion on what your problem actually is. And then once you see the problem, the actual problem, it should be scary how easy it was to find, and also scary how easy it is in general, because it feels huge, but it's like, I just have to have that conversation, which is another way of saying, oh shit, I have to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But
you have to get it out.
It has to be there.
You have to write it or do something. Yes.
Okay. The next trap that we follow into is the midwit trap.
Matt's been on this is so much for like a month or two now.
This has been my favorite meme over the last couple of months.
It's amazing.
If you've never seen the midwit meme, don't feel like you're missing out. It's not something you're likely to see unless you're in certain circles. Search it on like Google Images and type in midwit meme, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about. If I could describe it to anyone, so it's got a bell curve on it. We've talked about it on the episodes?
I think so.
Okay. It's got a bell curve on it. On one side, it's got this guy who's a simpleton. This guy looks like maybe inbred. I don't know, but he's over there with like lumps in his forehead, and he's got a very simple solution. Okay. What? See him?
Yeah, I never really noticed his head.
You've never noticed that?
That's not a lump.
I don't know what you'd call that. He's got eyes off to the side of his head.
It looks like balls, babe.
Oh, it does. Yeah, you're right. He's got nuts on his head. Anyway, so he's on one end. He's on one extreme of the distribution curve. And then in the middle, which is where most people are at, there's this guy, and he's got tears running down his face as he's trying to explain this complex solution for what is a rather simple problem. Okay?
Holding on for dear life.
That's where most people fall. We try to understand to death a problem, and we think that more understanding is going to equal a better solution. And then there's on the other end of the IQ distribution curve, which is the high IQ guy, has the very same solution as the low IQ guy. This is, I think, an illustration for me of like Occam's razor, which is the simplest solution tends to be the correct one, which is your first thought is usually the correct one, but then we We think that the problem is more complex than that because how could we, these simple idiots, figure out something so complex that no one else has figured out? And so you go off and research and try to figure out all this crap. I think that a lot of the times addiction is, this happens to addiction, right?
Oh, 100%.
I think that what Max says is that you don't want to necessarily be the guy on the right. You don't want to be the highest IQ person in the room. In fact, you should try to be the guy on the left, the low IQ guy. What you really don't want to be is the guy in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
there's inaction there.
Big time.
It's all about inaction.
Yeah.
But you think that you need to learn more before you do anything. And all that does is keep you idle for way too long. And it keeps you in denial almost for way too long because you're still stuck in this, like, what do I need to do? How do I need to do this? Where can I fix this? Where do I need to, doing all that stuff.
It's a trap of inaction.
It's a trap of inaction. Yes.
It really is. And that's what these are, traps of inaction, traps of agency.
Yes.
So I think with addiction, like this would look like the guy on the left saying, feel your feelings, don't use drugs or alcohol. Yeah. And then the guy in the middle says, you can't recover until you understand the root of your trauma and you've done all this inner work and shadow work and you've done cognitive behavioral therapy and 1,500 meditation sessions over a minimum of 5 years.
Shit gives me a tired head.
That's what I mean, though. You need to understand the roots before you can fix it. And then the guy on the right who's been through all of it just says, don't use drugs or alcohol, feel your feelings. Learn how to process them in a healthy way. The guy on the right and the guy on the left had the same solution, but most of us fall on the middle. This midwit. Yeah. You don't want to be the midwit. You don't want to be the guy in the middle. So the guy on the left isn't smart enough to overcomplicate simple things. The guy on the right is smart enough to reduce the complexity and focus on simple actions. But the midwit in the middle lives in the danger zone and mistakes simplicity for stupidity. I think this is sort of the process of how we learn. Like if you are an expert at something, this is kind of what happens. Like you're very naive in the beginning or you feel like you are, but in fact, you're generally just right. And then you learn how complicated things are and you try to overcomplicate it. But then when you've been doing it for 20 years, you arrive right back where you started.
Oh, man, I felt that.
Yeah, right?
Within what we do.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel that too?
Yes. Yes. So the midwit trap can be something that we can fall into. And I have found myself in here more times than I can count. I have struggled here with so many things. Like there's no way I could write about that. We could never talk about that in an episode because it's so much more complex than we're making it, which most of the time it's not. It's just not.
No.
People make it seem that way.
Right.
Midwits will make you think that you're dumb, but in fact, you have the right solution. Be the guy on the left. Try to be the guy on the left. Don't try to be the guy on the right. Try to be the guy on the left.
Sorry, I'm just really thinking about this.
I want your thoughts out the microphone.
I know. You're like, can you have your thoughts out loud right now? But I'm just like, really, I'm just spinning on this. It's just, I can find myself in between this and just with my own personal experience with what we do, because we get a lot of, negative feedback, like online, like with people who basically think that we don't know what we're talking about. But then I always go back to my basics and my common sense of like, no, I'm not. Like, you're trying to pull me into a direction that I've already been in and I don't agree with it. So I still need to go back to my basics. Like, what do I really believe? Like, it's no difference than the behaviors over substance, right? Like, I've always talked about behaviors, because to me, that was just common sense. But then there are people who will throw out like substances, this and alcoholic that and da-da-da. And I'm just like,
studies at you,
and throw studies and all these things. And I'm just like, you're overcomplicating something that I've been trying to simplify since we started this.
Midwits.
But then I get sucked into that trap. I think a lot of people do. We all get sucked into that trap. I've probably pushed people into a trap like that too, because we talk about education and empowerment or whatnot in our things, in our mission, right? So I don't want to overcomplicate it. I want to simplify it. Like that's always been part of my mission, is to simplify things.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I go through this whole midwit process, or I go that, I'm just going to end up back where I was before.
Exactly. That's what happens.
That's what's going to happen, right? Or
no, you're right. 100%. So in my observation of being a content creator now for a couple of years, I have come across we'll categorize 3 different types of people that have been with someone who's abusive or addicted or any number of things. We have some people that at the first sign that someone is abusing them or not treating them right, they got out. They're like, I never let someone treat me with that kind of disrespect. I left.
Okay.
Then you have people on the far right that are like, this is the people who have gone through the midwit phase and everything else that say, listen, after years and years and years of researching and going through therapy and trying different methods, I've arrived at the point where you should never let someone treat you with disrespect or abuse you. But then you have the vast majority of people, which are the midwits, that will tell you how cruel of you. You need to understand someone's trauma. And if you don't understand their trauma, then you have no, like, how could you possibly hold that against them? They're excusing abuse for essentially, someone that has a difficult time in life, whatever it might be. They'll throw all kinds of stuff. They have attachment style issues. They have trauma. They have, childhood wounds. They have all kinds of shit that have gone on, and they researched to death this midwit area of expertise, which is trying to understand, which is really just a coping mechanism of trying to control. But the people on the right and the people on the left have one thing in common, which is that if someone's abusing you, you shouldn't be around it.
Yeah.
And for some people, it takes a lot to get there.
Yeah.
But I envy the guy on the left that's like, common sense dictates that you don't let people treat you that way. And it's that simple. And what people in the middle don't understand is that it is quite that simple.
Yeah. And we're not judging those that are in the middle because, like I said, I fucking do this too. Man. We do this. Like, this is what we do. It's almost like human nature. But I feel like this is an aha moment for a lot of us where it's like we're all going to end up on that side. Like, if you just remove the fluff. Remove the fluff.
This is, I think, this is a compliment. Do not take this the wrong way, but I think that we're on opposite sides of this. I think I've always aspired to be the guy on the right, and you've always been the guy on the left. And pretty comfortable with it. Yeah. You're like, I'm not going to think too hard about this. My principles dictate X, whatever it might be. And then I'm the one who has to go through all this exploration, read all these books, and try to figure all this crap out. You do. And then I ultimately figure out the same thing that you figured out just trusting your gut instinct.
I think that's why I detach a lot from social media and from things that try to muddy my perspective, because I'm pretty solid in what I feel. And whenever I expose myself to those things or people trying to...
Makes you question yourself?
It makes me question myself. So it's better for me to just kind of not avoid it, but not be a part of it, because it's like, I'm just going to end up back to where I was before. It's almost more overwhelming for me to have to question all those things. And I'm like, I still keep going back to where I was in the beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
But it's not necessarily avoidance. It's just like, I feel like my values are here and this is where I'm at and that's where I want to be.
It's the simplest solution is generally the correct one.
I mean, that's how I feel. Why do I want to keep like...
That's a razor,
have tired head over and over again by researching over something that's just going to get me back to where I was in the beginning.
Yeah. And for me, I feel like I have to learn as much as possible to trust my gut.
Yeah.
And I think that you feel just comfortable in your gut instincts.
Because it says I need to learn before I do anything.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
And it feels productive, but it's not, because...
It's avoidance. At the end of the day, it's looking in hindsight,
then that is avoidance. Not what I'm doing is avoidance. What I do. What you do is avoidance in that
I feel like
aspect.
I need to be an expert before I can have an opinion. And you're just like, no, it just doesn't make sense to me. Just do that.
Right. And it doesn't mean that I'm like 100% confident in it. It still affects me. Like whenever I hear things or read things that go against what I believe in, and it's like, oh, but then I still always go back to where I was. Yeah, by trusting my gut.
Like I saw a funny one on weight loss, and like the guy on the left is like, just use more calories than you take in. And then the guy in the middle is like, no, you need to understand if you're if you're a mesomorph or if you're, an ectomorph, and if you need to figure out your metabolic windows and understand, how PCOS is affecting you and understand how your genetics play a role in your weight loss. And then the guy on the right's ultimately like, no, like
it's the calorie intake.
You just need to like use more calories than you take in, and
you'll
lose weight.
You did that a lot. You did because you did the paleo, you did macros, you did. I think I've only done 2 programs.
I've done like probably 5 or 6
You did a lot, but then it just kind of like
I've
go back.
I've done like the protein fruit thing. I've done like
my thing is just not like keeping consistent with it. Like I know what it needs to be done. I know it's not a problem within me. It's just my mental thing.
If I'm trying to lose weight, at the end of the day, I need to use more calories than I've taken in.
Yeah.
It's 100 times out of 100.
That's science.
Some things make it more difficult, but that's the recipe. That's the law of thermodynamics. And nothing that you learn about in the middle is going to do anything except for delay what you ultimately know, which is that I just need to eat less. and exercise more.
Right.
That's it. That's it, man. But people will overcomplicate this. And in comment sections, you can think that you're crazy and there's something you don't know because someone has mentioned
That's where I get, you know,
the
where
midwit
I'm
trap can be a tricky one because none of us, like most people anyway, I should say, I'll just speak for myself here. I'm just going to speak for me. I don't feel like I know enough to have opinions on things. And so I feel like I need to research everything. If I'm going to be on a platform that people actually happen to listen to, I need to come prepared and I need to know what I'm talking about.
But it's also best if you do it based on experience. And if you misspeak, you know that you can always come back and say, I probably didn't speak appropriately here.
Yeah, I'm always open to having my mind change and to admitting where I've been wrong. Don't get me wrong about that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not scared to change my opinion. I just I feel like I need to research, but I also kind of like learning too. It's interesting.
It is interesting to learn. And I like to learn too. And I like to read and I like to do all those things. But it's funny how we are on the total different spectrum, but we have the same.
Okay. So back to the midwit inversion trap solution. The midwit trap is what we've just discussed. It's thinking that more knowledge is going to fix your problem when in fact it's usually the simple action that fixes your problem. So let's give an example. So here's what Max says. He says, what would the guy on the left do? Ask yourself that. If I was a simpleton and I had to get advice from myself, what would the guy on the left do? What would the guy with a 10 IQ do? Right? So he says, let's example. I want to become a better writer. So he says the midwit will start learning about writers' coffee drinking routines and researching the perfect keyboard to enhance their word count. Instead, you should ask yourself, how would you guarantee that you'll become a worse writer? How would you guarantee? So if you want to be a better writer, okay, that's the goal. Ask yourself the second question, how would I guarantee that I become a worse writer? You would not write at all. Mm-hmm. You would write inconsistently, and you would write about topics or subjects that you hate. That would guarantee that you're a worse writer, right?
Yeah.
So invert it. You would write consistently, and you would write about topics that excite you.
Yeah.
That guarantees that you're the guy on the right and the left simultaneously.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be the guy in the middle. That stuff will come to you over time. Just break it down in its simplest form.
I think this is why, like, when I think about our program, it's structured, like it's organized, but it isn't like full on in the middle, the midwit type thing where we're giving you a whole bunch of stuff. It's more of like helping you trust your gut and utilizing.
We're trying to make you the guy on the left.
Yes, exactly. It's learning how to communicate, trust your gut, and not trying to figure out all of these things that are going on within your life to make it different when you just need to be the guy on the left.
Yeah. The example that he uses on highagency.com is hilarious. It's about like how to develop a good product. The guy on the left says, make something that people want. The midwit in the middle says, let's combine the MBA with 5-year stints in consulting and the whole TED Talk business library. The business idea I'll end up with will be unstoppable. The guy on the right also just says, create something that people want. It's that effing simple. The guy on the left isn't smart enough to overcomplicate simple actions. The guy on the right is smart enough to reduce complexity and focus on the simple actions. The midwit in the middle lives in the danger zone and often mistakes simplicity for stupidity. The less intelligent guy on the left has more agency than the midwit because he didn't have the cognitive horsepower to bullshit himself. How many of us get in trouble?
That's what I'm trying to say. I don't want to bullshit myself. That's why I don't go that route.
How many of us have found ourselves with this horrible ability to bullshit ourselves?
All of us.
And second guess what we already know. And then look back in your past anytime this has ever come up. Years later, what did you ultimately decide on? The very thing you started with, but you were too smart and you decided to bullshit yourself.
Yep.
Because you have too much cognitive horsepower.
There's too much information.
Too much. There's way too much. So inversion's a really, really good one. It's a really great way to kind of, I guess,
that's a good exercise.
Bring things
to simplify it.
Yes.
Simplify.
Yes. So let's just say, like in the context of having someone in your life who's struggling with addiction, they show no interest, knock my mic over, no interest in changing or going to therapy or working on this. They don't see it as a problem. Let's just say that you have this problem. The problem is I want to support my partner in the right way. That's what I want to do. That's my goal. The midwit trap, here's what the midwit would do. He would get 5 books on codependency. He would bookmark 15 different TED Talks on empathy and trauma. He would start an attachment theory deep dive and ask 17 different Facebook groups on how to lovingly detach. Here's the inversion trick on that. How would I support them in the worst way possible?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's the worst way I could support someone?
Never set boundaries.
Scream, yell, berate someone. You would never set boundaries. You would walk on eggshells. You would abandon your values just to keep the peace, just to make sure that they're happy and shit doesn't get too hard for them. And you would ignore your own pain.
Mm-hmm.
So
you lose yourself.
The best way, the high agency way to simplify this would, when you see positive behaviors, please reinforce those. Remind people that they're doing well when you see them doing well. The same way that you would want someone to treat you if you're doing well.
Right.
That's one of your values, right? You would also set clear boundaries. You would stick to your values. You would let natural consequences of life, teach them some valuable lessons. You would let these things happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And you would also take care of yourself like your life depends on it.
Because it does.
That would be the way to solve that problem. Let's do one more. If you want to rebuild trust in a relationship, midwit would, here we go again. I'm about to knock this microphone
Oh my gosh, if you do that.
The midwit would watch every single podcast they could find on rebuilding intimacy. They would overanalyze whether trauma explains someone's behavior. They would wait until the other person seems like they quote unquote get it before starting to try.
Uh-huh.
And then you would journal about what love should look like endlessly until the end of time. So inversion trick, what destroys trust faster?
Ignoring your gut.
Yep.
Accepting surface level apologies, apologies with no action.
Yeah. The best way to say I'm sorry is change your behavior, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Rush through this, like trust is better tomorrow. We're all good. Everything's fine. Essentially lie to yourself about it.
Yeah.
And then, pretend like everything's fine. Where simplify that is that trust is rebuilt with consistent action over time, not words.
Observing the behavior over time, not like just doing it like, they're fine for 2 weeks.
Decisions based on data, observable data, patterns, behaviors, not just potential.
We're picking up on patterns. We're humans. We're supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, and don't rush a connection that hasn't been earned with safety.
Yeah.
I think that when you look at rebuilding trust, that's how you do it. That's solve that problem. Just ask yourself the question, how would I fail at this miserably, and then do the opposite?
These are things that your gut tells you to do, but whenever you overread or you analyze things, they're going to question your gut. And then you're going to end up just stuck there forever because you're not trusting your gut. These are things that literally tell you how you should forgive somebody or how you get through it. That's what your gut tells you to do.
I think the most common one that we see is, should I stay or should I go?
Yeah.
And we've had episodes on this. We've talked about this endlessly. Our course is literally the program's designed to help you develop agency so you can make that kind of decision. Mm-hmm. But let's just apply that question to this midwit trap and see what comes out.
Okay.
What was it? Wait, where did it go?
Should I stay or should I go?
Yeah, I want to clarify on whether I should stay or go.
Yeah.
How do I know the difference? So here's what midwit will do, right? They will ask, well, what if they get better in 6 months? What if they figure it out next year? What if they figure it out right when I leave? You'll reanalyze the last 10 years of your relationship. You will hire 3 different therapists and then compare their different insights, get every book that applies on codependency and everything else. You'll wait for the perfect time so that no one gets hurt, and it's going to be super easy, which by the way, doesn't exist, by the way.
No.
So how can you ensure, so ask yourself, okay, so how do I guarantee that I stay stuck forever and miserable? You would delay all decisions, period. You would keep 1 foot in, 1 foot out, which is just misery, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
You would let fear run the show, and you would avoid the truth staring you right in the face. So high agency simplicity looks like decide based on who they are right now, not who they could become. I think this is like the gambler's paradox in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
Should I stay or should I go? When people ask, well, what if they get better in 6 months?
I'll say,
what would you
if
say
they get
to
better.
the guy at the slot machine who spent $5,000 he didn't have, who's like, what if I hit it on the next one? What is the pattern said? You're not winning. It's time to walk away.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way it works. That's simple. It breaks people's hearts. It sounds cruel. It sounds mean, but it's just the fucking truth.
Yeah.
I know that sounds horrible, but what would you tell someone sitting in a slot machine? I understand love's a little different slot machine, but the pattern should tell you something. Mm-hmm. People are like, well, every once in a while these things do hit a jackpot. Yeah, but not usually. Most people just end up broken and sitting in like Gamblers Anonymous meetings and divorced over this stuff.
But even if they do get better, good for them. You're done. Then that's okay.
Yeah.
You should be okay with that.
Yeah. Be okay with walking away while you're ahead. Mm-hmm. Ahead looks different for everyone, but okay with walking away while you're ahead. So yeah, high agency simplicity looks like decide based on who they are right now. Can I live with this forever?
Yeah.
not who they could become necessarily. Ask yourself, would I want my child in this relationship? I've used that a lot. If your best friend sent you this message, or if your daughter asked you this question, how would you reply to them? Or your son asked, what would you do if you were me, mom or dad? And how do you reply to that? It's probably different than the answer you try to give yourself. Treat yourself, like Peterson says, treat yourself like you're someone that you're responsible for caring for. It's that simple. So choose action over analysis. Action over analysis. We know what analysis does. We can learn as much as we can. We just end up being midwits. Action is generally the way you want to go.
Yep.
And make peace with imperfect options as well. I think that that's a huge piece of it.
Yeah.
That is simplicity. It's make peace with the fact that that could happen. You're right. You could walk away right before you hit a jackpot. That is possible, but you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with that.
Yeah, but I mean, even if they get better in 6 months, this is going to take years and years and years to actually get better. So
I know.
I'm just saying in general. And when people think of that, like, oh, what if they get sober once I leave? It's like, there's still so much work that has to be done, and you don't have to deal with that. You can be okay being away from that.
Yeah. And in the case of like, I don't know, like I think about like Steve and Christine on an episode we did a long time ago called Leaving Him Saved Our Marriage and His Life.
Mm-hmm.
It was in her doing that actually saved Steve's life. And I know that that's not everyone's story. I know that some people do that and it never gets better. Okay. Do you want a front row seat, or you want to read about it in the newspaper? We've talked about that too.
Right.
The guy on the left would say, do these things, right? Simplify it. Just simplify it. Don't overcomplicate it. The more you overcomplicate it, the more you're going to muddy your decisions and generally just stick around for way too long. Way too long. All right. The next one is the attachment trap.
This is very similar to what we were just talking about. Like, what if they finally get it?
Mm-hmm.
You're emotionally tied to the fantasy version of your partner and the relationship or the future. Even when facts are going to contradict that, like you see the patterns and you notice and you recognize, you could have asked me to turn that off. I'm sitting right next to it. I'm like, why did you get up and go? He went to turn off the heater. Oh my God, that's the third time you've done that. Anyway, so the attachment trap, it's you replay these good memories and you justify staying based on the past good things instead of looking at the entire thing. That's kind of being in denial.
Yeah. So there's what's called first principles thinking versus last principles thinking. Your mind. So in last principles thinking, your mind has assumptions about reality, and they treats those assumptions as unquestionable facts, and then starts to look for evidence to support that without once questioning the assumptions themselves. So he gives this example about what a last principles thinker would be. And it's someone that has a feeling like they can't ever say, I don't know. Like they
feel like they have to know everything.
They just know.
They just have to have the answers to everything.
It's like people, these people, like you can't teach them anything.
Yeah.
Like they will not change their mind about certain things. Like this is it. This is who I am. We find these to be TikTok commenters generally, most of the time. Or people that say it's always been that way. This is a really common one in business. Like, wait a second, why are we doing this? Well, we've always done it that way. Okay, you're assuming that what you're doing is the right thing to do, when in fact, if we really look at this, it's not.
It might have been the right thing to do back in the day, but it doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do now. You have to evolve.
Not 2025.
That's evolving.
Yeah, people who think that they have everything figured out, essentially,
yes,
once again, based on the assumption that they've already done this work to get them there.
Mm-hmm.
They straw man the other side of the argument, which is another way of saying, I'm going to pick out this one little piece of whatever argument you make. I'm going to fixate on that and focus on that and just tear that apart rather than objectionably looking at it and try to steel man the argument, which is the opposite of saying, how could you be correct in that?
Ooh, I've done that before.
Straw man arguments?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. This is like online. If you ever look at an online argument, especially when it comes to politics, that's all it is. It's just people straw manning.
Oh yeah, that's true.
They're not trying to learn or understand. It's just straw manning perspectives, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
People who have last principles thinking generally look for evidence to support their line of thinking as opposed to evidence that would be contrary to it.
Okay.
And they already have conclusions. Like they've already got conclusions about things. So you're attached to these ideas and these assumptions and these conclusions because you're comfortable with them. Not necessarily because they're correct, but because you're comfortable with them. Where a first principles thinker enjoys saying that I don't know. They understand and they are okay with the fact that they don't have everything figured out. They start with fundamental truths and build from that. They try to steel man the other side of the argument to look at where they can poke holes in their side because it helps them come to better realities about things.
You're really good at this.
At the first principles thinking?
Yes.
There's a book that I read that really changed my perspective on this. I don't have it in front of me right now.
When did you read
First
it?
Principles. It's on my nightstand, that red one.
Yeah, but you've done this for a long time. Like, I feel like this is part of like ingrained
In my
in you.
DNA.
Yes.
Keep asking questions like why, searches Google for why your answer is incorrect, and then tries to explain everything like you're explaining it to a 10-year-old. Try to reduce it to its simplest form. First principles thinking. So I think that a lot of people can be guilty of this one. When you're too attached to past assumptions about things, to see new high agency options, you become a man with a hammer who can only see a nail. I think that especially when I work with people, if I've ever worked with someone trying to help them quit drinking or quit using a drug or whatever it might be, or some kind of behavior, a lot of them get attached to assumptions that I can't be happy without drinking.
Right. Or I'll never have fun again.
I'll never have fun again. I'll never have good
vacations will
sex again.
suck.
Yeah, vacations for the rest of my life will suck. You're making a lot of assumptions, but and you're very much attached to those assumptions. So you'll never be able to see a high agency option for how else you could have fun or how else you could find fulfillment because you're so attached to the outcome. People are very attached to their reality and their worldview, and they're not willing to abandon certain aspects of it. Now, spouses can be really bad about this too.
Yeah, for sure.
The only way I've ever been able to see myself happy is married with 2 kids in that house with that person.
Yeah.
And that is it.
Right.
There's no other way to go about it. And the reality is that if you're not willing to look past that, if you're attached to that conclusion, then you're never going to see high agency options. You will never.
Yeah.
It's almost like this is sort of like a midwit's way, I guess, of saying, look at the bright side, explore all your options. I think George Mack's way to get out of this is my favorite solution of all time. He says, what would I do if I had 10 times the agency? So what he proposes that you do is to imagine that you have an evil, identical twin whose sole job it is to have 10 times the agency of you. And what ideas would they have? What thoughts would they have? And the thought experiment allows your mind to explore creative ideas that you would never think of otherwise. So he posts this Twitter thread, and this guy basically says, I hate how well asking myself, if I had 10 times the agency I have, what would I do? How often that works. He says, all of a sudden, there's just an immediate list of solutions to like half of the problems in my life appearing out of the ether. If I had more agency, I'd ask myself about 100 times, but I'm too scared to see what it produces because we're attached to our assumptions and our outcomes and our conclusions.
Because they're safe because
Quote,
we know what they're comfortable. We know what it is. We know how it's going to end up. If we switch it and change it, it's scary because you don't know. You don't have those new patterns.
Yeah. All of a sudden, like he talks about, let's say that you're at a nightclub and you show up, you wait in line, and then you get up there and they say, sorry, pal, it's full. You're not getting in tonight. He says someone with low agency would be like, damn it. Okay. But he says, what would I do if I had 10 times the agency? So he says, all of a sudden, these creative ideas come into your head. You could bribe the bouncer. You could get in through the back door. You could contact the owner of the venue, offer him some kind of service in exchange for getting in that night. You could disguise yourself in a new outfit. You could get your friends to bring a full camera studio and pretend that it's TMZ capturing some A-list celebrity because they just didn't know who you were. But just imagine all of these outcomes when you start to abandon your attachment to the conclusions and assumptions that you have. So I think when it comes to relationships and life, you can really think about this and play with some really interesting ideas. What would I do if I had 10 times the agency? So what would I do if I had 10 times the agency? So I'm struggling. I kind of went through this. At one point in my life, I could not imagine a life where fun didn't involve getting shit-faced.
Yeah.
I say shit-faced. Just drinking. Able to get a buzz, grab a couple cocktails and have a good time. I could not imagine that. And so I didn't ask myself this question, but this was sort of my thought train was like, well, what else could happy look like? What else could that look like? And I was like, I always thought it looked like people who like were hiking and shit. It looked fun, or people who had like some kind of like an exercise routine that took care of themselves. Like there's something about just being comfortable in your skin that seems so attractive to me.
Yeah.
People that were emotionally intelligent, emotionally, aware, like that seems really, really awesome. What if I got an old car and worked on it with my son in order to bond with him better, like spending time with my son and showing him something I think is cool. Like cars make me happy. That would be fun. That's also fulfilling. I've suddenly detached myself from the conclusion I can only have fun drinking to start explore other ways I could have fun.
Yeah.
And it opens up so many doors as opposed to being stuck to
just
this
being
one
stuck
outcome.
on that.
And this is what we talk about when we discuss reframing hope.
Exactly. That right there.
In the beginning, people find us because they want to reframe hope. They just want their marriage to be solved. You know, they want to be happily ever after with that person.
Yeah.
I'm not saying abandon that idea by any means, because if we're evidence of anything, is
that's only one possible solution, though.
But
there are other solutions that you can look into. It's not just that one.
Yeah, and that takes two people. That's the thing. When it comes 100%. To being high agency, like, you are somewhat limited by what other people are willing and unwilling to do. Unless you want to be like a total narcissist about it and force people to do what you want and try to get outcomes you want, but you're not going to have a good time doing that.
No.
But it can be a beautiful life this way, but that's just one avenue. Like, I know if we had to, we could find other ways to be happy, and I'm open to those outcomes. Very comfortable with the one I have, obviously. The happiest guy in the entire world. I've never been happier in my life, but I hold the possibility that I could be happy in other ways. I think that when it comes to your career, this is a really valuable one too. You know, if you're unhappy in your job, what would you do if you had 10 times the agency? Would you contact people in your network, even though you hate doing that, and asking if they have anything available? Can you send your resume over? Can you get coffee? Could you join a networking group? Could you do a million things that would help better your chances of finding a new avenue? Could you learn a skill in the evenings, get on YouTube and find out how to video edit because you want to be someone who has a job where you can work anywhere you want, learn how to edit video because that's a really valuable skill that pays a lot of money. Do things like that. Like, there's things we can do. Ask yourself, if I had an evil twin who had 10 times the agency of me, what would that person do? And watch the ideas just pour into your head.
Yeah.
So if you're sad, stuck, and depressed, what would you do if you had 10 times the agency?
Why do they have to be evil?
I'd just say evil. I don't know.
Okay.
Someone who thinks differently than you.
Okay.
Call it evil, right? Evil twin.
It's not evil.
Let's just say that you're someone who feels stuck and you're scared to leave. What would you do if you had 10 times the agency? At the very least, like, you could do one thing today, which is you could start to look for apartments.
Right. Yeah.
And see what those cost.
Squirrel money.
Yes.
Squirrel.
You could start to make things on Etsy. I don't know if you knit. I don't know what you do, right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right. Connect with others who have been through this. And they may have some guidance for you as well.
Yeah. Like, we talked to, and the episode will never come out, but we had this amazing conversation with somebody a while ago. And this is a person that rebuilt their life. I mean, completely rebuilt their life, who was in a marriage and everything else. And like, I think they both had jobs. I don't remember. But either way, this person started to squirrel away money by doing all sorts of little side gigs and stuff, and got to the point where they were able to walk financially independent. That's one of the most common questions we get. Well, what do you do if you're stuck? I know what their advice would be. Their advice would be, do whatever you have to do. And this is one of the most high agency people I know.
Yeah.
Do whatever you have to do. I mean, if you have to go on, Temu and buy wholesale crap and resell it at trade shows, do that. Whatever you have to do to get by. Like, this person was unwilling to accept their current situation, and they rebuilt. Well, I'll find a way to get something about that story out, or a similar story.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the definition of high agency right there.
Right.
Was that, like, when it comes to finances, people are like, well, I'm stuck. I'm a single mom. I'm reliant on his income. What would you do if you had 10 times the agency? What would that person do? I don't know. Sell feet pics. I don't know.
I was
right?
going to bring that up, and you didn't. You did not.
I don't know what you need to do.
But seriously.
But what would that person do if they had 10 times the agency?
I always think of things like that. There's never just one set solution. Like, I'm always trying to figure out all different ways that I would have to solve a problem. And that's what I would do. It's things like that. I think everybody needs to have that mentality in order to become high agency.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that thought exercise. That is like my favorite thing that I've learned here in the last month is, what would I do right now if I had 10 times the agency? And then what sucks about doing that, though, is that you're not going to like anything that comes back. The solutions that come back are going to scare you and you're not going to want to do it because the solutions that come back will scare you. But that's the best possible advice you could be given in that situation.
So honestly, like, on his example of going to a nightclub and thinking of all different ways to get in, I'm not thinking that hard. I'm going to go home. I'm not high agency when it comes to that shit.
Well, let's just say that you're a 22-year-old college student, and this is like that's what you do, right?
I guess.
How would you
I didn't do that. So for me personally, that's not a great example for me.
Pick any problem in your life.
I know that. Yeah. But I'm very, how we're very, in different parts of our lives, we don't push things. We do go with the flow on certain things within, let's say we're doing something within our home. We're not very pushy with somebody like a contractor who comes over and maybe they're not doing what we want them to do specifically. Like we don't push it. We're like, okay, we're going to figure this out. Things will get better.
I think there's a difference between overbearing and high agency.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a difference. I would fire a contractor before I got overbearing with a contractor.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that there's a level of common sense here.
Yeah,
I guess.
I would fire someone
ground.
and find someone else before I would sit there and be overbearing and babysit them and make sure that they're doing things exactly the way I want them to do so I can sleep at night.
Right.
Hell no.
Yeah.
I'm just going to fire you and I'll find someone else.
Yeah.
Like, at work, this has benefited me immensely.
Oh yeah,
It
you're
just
great
gives you
at that.
clarity.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to sit here and go through this crap. Just
Yeah, but there are a lot of things just like within that we don't give the energy to where it's like we're just going to go with the flow here. We're going to just figure this out. It'll be fine that way.
Yeah, back to the preface of all this discussion is like this is appropriate in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Not always appropriate.
Yeah.
You know?
There's that gray area.
Yeah. Yeah, let's say that you're not part of someone's life anymore. Like don't ask yourself, if I had 10 times the agency, how could I force this person to allow me over to be part of their life again?
Right.
Bro,
yeah.
chill. Okay.
Yeah.
Like we're not talking about
things
like
move
that.
on from that. Yeah.
Yeah. High agency.
That's manipulative.
Like stalkers are high agency. Okay.
Yeah.
Like chill.
Yeah.
There's a right and a wrong way to apply
Again,
this
it's about intentions. It's about that.
Yeah. There's a right and a wrong way to it. Yeah. Stalkers might be the highest agency people of all time. You're going to tell me no? Well, guess what? I'm showing up with binoculars.
Oh my God. It's so creepy. That's some creepy shit.
Beyond creepy. Okay. That one I think was my favorite of them all. But the next one is probably the most relevant to listeners, I would think. The rumination trap.
Yeah. I had an episode on rumination recently. In Paige's perspective, I did a...
What was the gist of that? I remember the episode.
Just being in that trap. Like we need to cultivate our feelings that we want instead of being stuck in that trap of rumination, because it just like, it doesn't do you any good. It just keeps you stuck. It's just like the midwit meme. It's the same part of being like that. It's just overthinking. It's just like, you're just constantly thinking of the what ifs. And that even goes along with my recent Paige's perspective of, instead of saying what if, say even if, you're going to be able to handle it anyway.
Yeah.
Because when we start to ruminate, we get stuck in it's disempowering, because you're like constantly asking what if, and you think that you can't handle things. But in reality, you're not as broken as you think, and you can handle a lot more. So it's better to say even if instead of what if, because you can handle a lot more shit. But we're so scared because we think we can't handle it. So that kind of happens in the rumination trap.
Yeah. The way that Mac describes it in this essay, he said, it's like spending your entire life scrolling the metaphorical Netflix home screen, unable to find the perfect film. How many times have we done that? Sat there and just gone through the menu over and over and over and over. Then you open up a different app. Let's check Prime Video. Oh, let's look at Hulu. But you never decide on anything. You
and our son
the worst about
are
this.
The worst when it comes to music too. Like not knowing what you want to listen to. And I'm just like, I'm putting this on and we're going to listen to it and see what happens. But it's constantly like, just pick something, damn it.
Here's what I'll do. Oftentimes I'll have a song in mind, but instead of going to pick that song, I'll go through a mixtape, and then for 20 minutes I'll cycle through songs and just ultimately go back to the one I wanted in the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I do that a lot.
Yes.
But anyway, here's what the rumination trap does. The ruminating perfectionist keeps kicking cans down the road because they can't find a perfect option with zero perceived risk, only to end up with lots of cans and no more road to kick them down. I think that's it. We look for a risk-free, perfect solution.
Yeah, and that doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
It does not exist. People don't understand that. Like every choice that we make, there's going to be a risk involved. No matter what.
What did Stoll say? Thomas Sowell said, there are no such thing as decisions, only trade-offs.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. There's just trade-offs in life.
We've talked about this on the podcast. I don't know if we had an episode on it, but I know that we've discussed it recently.
We've talked about it a lot in the car and like personal.
I know we do. I know.
House.
And sometimes it's starting to get mixed up because we have a lot. This is like what our relationship is. We talk a lot about things that we read. This is what we do. This is what we've done since we were kids. So it's kind of quite, it's like, wait, did we put that in the podcast? Did we discuss that in the podcast? Or was this just a conversation we had in the car?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's going to be a risk to everything. It's always trade-offs. Like if you stay stuck in a relationship, like there are risks involved there. You think it's safe, but the risks are, if you have children, there's going to be a lot more risks with that.
Yep.
There are risks when you leave. Like there's so many risks in all this decisions that we make. And rumination makes you think that you're in control when you're really not, because it's just thoughts. It's not action. So you just think that you are in control of what's going on.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Make that make sense. It's because we're in our head all the time. This is why I'm so big on present moment awareness and practicing staying present. And people think I'm crazy sometimes when I say that. It's like, well, that's not what I need to do. But it is, because you're not thinking about these things. You're actually just sitting there in reality. And that's what's important, is being in reality, not ruminating all these thoughts that you're not going to do anything about anyway.
My first therapist used to tell me to look down at my feet.
Mm-hmm.
She would say, look at your feet and stare at your feet. Because where your feet are is where you are.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not your head. Where are you? She would ask me that during sessions, like, where are you at right now?
Mm-hmm.
And she'd say, look at your feet. Because I'd be future tripping about a million different things that haven't happened yet, and what I would do in each situation. And I drive myself crazy with all the what ifs in life, all kinds of shit.
Yeah, but also whenever you have conversations with people, like when you had a problem with active listening, did you ruminate in that? Like whenever you're listening to people, because you're not really listening to people, you're just thinking what you're going to say.
That's my overactive brain just thinking like, oh man, they probably don't know about this thing that I read that would really help their perspective. I need to tell them about this author that wrote this thing. And then so I do my best to let that thought be super quick and then file it back. My fear is that I'll forget to tell them and I won't be as helpful to them and they won't like me as much because, that's how I am, people pleaser.
Right.
But 9 times out of 10, I forget.
But that's okay,
if
right?
I don't say it right then, I just forget it. It's okay.
But it's okay because
it's better than the alternative of not being present in a conversation.
Exactly, because the conversation usually changes anyway. Like
generally
what they're trying to get at. Maybe it was important for you, but what they were trying to say is not that important.
It's even happened a few times. Like with this very essay, I was talking to a friend the other day, one of my favorite people to talk to about stuff like this. I forgot to mention this. And then I think it was like 3 days later, I remembered, and I just texted him out of nowhere. So you can always bring this stuff back up. Maybe it wasn't perfect in the moment, but like he still appreciated it nonetheless.
Yeah.
So
anyway, that's a little bit off.
Yeah. No, it's similar to active listening. I guess you could say that. Like your mind's just thinking about things, but the rumination is more about like he says, here's what it sounded like in his life. I've spent the last 5 years thinking about leaving my hometown of Doncaster. I think or Doncaster. He's from England. I don't know how you say that. Doncaster, and going to New York. There's no perfect option. When my mind thinks of going to New York, it plays a horror film of the expensive rent draining my bank account and me losing contact with my home friends. When my mind thinks of staying in Doncaster, it plays a horror film of me as an old man wondering what could have been if I moved to New York. When faced with those horror films, they opt for more ruminating time. So he says that the escape route for this trap is, how can I take action on this right now? Micro steps. How can I take action on this right now?
Yeah.
What was the exercise I came up with on this one?
Oh, the experiment reframe. So I'm 60% sure this could help.
Yeah, that's from him.
So I'm trying it for 30 days and reassessing. No forever, just a test. This is very similar to our 90-day.
Give it 90
days.
Yeah.
The 90-day rule of anything that you want to do. Like change something for 90 days and see what it does for you.
Yeah, we came up with some of our own exercises, but this one came straight from George. He says, frame things as an experiment instead of some kind of like final solution, perfect solution. So he says, if I'm 60% certain that moving to New York is a better than 40% of staying in Doncaster, okay, it's time to give it a shot. Book the tickets to New York and run the experiment. Success isn't whether your forecast is correct and New York is perfect. It's that you tested the hypothesis. It's more about trying it. That's what success looks like, is trying and experimenting, actually having completed an experiment, than it is having made the perfect life decision.
Yeah.
So when we talked about situations like this, like what about a trial separation? If you don't know if your marriage could work out, what if you don't know if you could quit drinking forever? Okay, could you quit drinking for 90 days and be happy? Could you? Okay, and if you were unable to do that, how about 30 or how about 60? And not just drinking, are you able to stay like happy and do it? Could you find purpose and do it? Run the experiments, try it, see what happens, break it down into small little chunks. Could I live with myself for 30 days? Could I get a part-time job and still be a present mother? Could I do any of these things? You could find out quickly if you just ran the experiment, and it wasn't about making the perfect decision about stuff.
I think that people are scared though that they're going to fuck up or something whenever they do these experiments. But I'm like, no, what you're going to do is when you're going to fuck up is when you don't try something
and
new.
You spend 5 years thinking about it.
Exactly.
Which is the rumination trap.
Yes. And then that just keeps you stuck in denial and out of reality for so much longer. And it's going to be even more difficult. But you've got to start somewhere and you've got to try something. You have to experiment.
Yeah.
I love looking at things as experiments. I think it's fun.
Let's just
I
try
think it's like,
it.
let's just try it. Let's just see if we can do this, you know? And then if it doesn't work, it's like, all right, that's okay. Let's try something else and see what happens.
That's how this show started. That's how Independently Strong
so
started.
fucking true.
That's how our worship started.
That's just fucking evolution. That's just evolving. That's just changing and shifting and growing and doing things. It's like trying new things, experimenting with them and seeing if they work. And sometimes some things won't work forever either. Like it might work for you for like 2 years. Then you're like, oh, this is it. This is the solution. But something else is going to change. Like, welcome to life. Yes,
something else. It's like life is whack-a-mole, man.
Yeah.
You should just enjoy playing the game.
Right.
Whack those moles.
Right.
Something else will pop up. Like you're never going to arrive at a finish line where you go, oh, everything's perfect now.
No, it might feel like that for a day or so. Maybe even a couple of weeks, you know, but the shit's still going to hit the fan.
It's like, oh, yes, I figured it out.
No, no one ever figures it all out. But at least you're trying and at least you're doing something. And you learn from those experiments.
Yeah. So use that 60-40 rule. Like if you're pretty sure that doing this is the right thing, but maybe it's not. How about you just decide to test it? And that's what success is testing it.
Mm-hmm.
Not whether or not you were correct, but just test it and see what happens. You could be shocked. You might find that it didn't work out, but you tried it.
Yeah.
You tried it. Is this the one that had the Hormozy quote? No, it's not, is it?
Nope, we're not there yet.
Down.
Yep.
It goes in hand with that, though. I think it makes for better stories whenever you experiment. I just simply do.
Oh, I do too.
I was talking to this old man at jury duty one time. Guy was probably like, I don't even know why he was there.
Retired and probably just wanted to
so
do
he's
something.
Like 70-something years old, but he was telling me about all these adventures he'd been on in life. And I was like, God, this guy has lived.
Mm-hmm.
He has lived.
That's the thing is that
no doubt lived. A high agency guy.
And they weren't perfect. I'm sure he made a bunch of boo-boos along the way.
I'm sure.
You know?
I'm sure.
But you'll never know unless you try.
Yep. Okay. Next one. The overwhelm trap. God, does this sound familiar? The overwhelm trap is,
story of my life,
as Mac puts it, paralyzes agency. The task is so daunting that you don't even know where to begin. So you drown in the sheer potential number of actions ahead of you. He talks about, like, if you wanted to learn quantum mechanics, where would you even begin, right? What if you wanted to become a black belt in jiu-jitsu? Where do you even start with that?
Mm-hmm.
What about building an airplane? Like, how do I even, if I wanted to build an airplane, like, where would you even begin? There's so much you don't understand, right? The physics of it, the training, where do you go to learn this stuff? What books do I read? What podcasts do I? It's just so much that most of us end up doing nothing.
Right.
So when you've got this mountain of problems, like in a relationship of some kind, like drinking is a lot of times the tip of the iceberg. Underneath that, you've got a whole host of other issues. I know, like within my life, this kept me from doing something about it for a long time because I was like, it sounds so big. How about fuck it? I'll just have a drink instead. That sounds way easier than dealing with all that bullshit. I'm not messing with that. It's just easier to get high, man. Mm-hmm. Just feel chill now. What problems, They just kind of go away.
Well, think about like whenever I think a lot of people who have to clean their houses and stuff.
Oh, well, hell yeah.
The overwhelm trap where you're like, there's just too much shit. I don't even know where to start. Like I've got laundry, I've got dishes, I've got dirty floors, I've got piles of shit and boxes everywhere. And I just don't even know where to start. And you get trapped in that overwhelming because you're like, you know what? I'm just going to do something else and maybe it'll go away. But what happens is that it just gets worse and worse. But you got to figure out where you need to start in order to get out of that trap.
I think about whenever we started this show in the company,
Mm-hmm.
I think about like when that started. Like I felt overwhelmed because I felt like I knew what I wanted the end thing to look like, sort of. But like, and what does it take to get there?
That's true.
In the beginning, it was like, okay, so you would have to have some kind of like entity, right? It would have to have like insurance. It would have to have a URL. It would have to have a logo. It would have to have, and what does it take to require it? So I got to find a logo designer and figure out what that even looks like. I have to file with the Texas Secretary of State for legal protections. I have to find an insurance agent. Then we have to like figure out what our content is, and we have to post every single day, but we don't even know what that looks like. What do you film on? You film on an iPhone, or do you get a camera? And what kind of camera do you get? And you spend a month on that, figuring out what kind of camera to get. And then like how, like, your voice as a creator, like what does that sound like? Like your audience, who are they? Who are the people that are going to listen? This is why most people don't do it, because those are all the questions that you're up against in the beginning.
Yeah.
But
you have to
with a business, with
somewhere.
a life decision, whatever it might be, it's a version of that. And it is overwhelming, which is why so few people do it.
Yeah.
But how do the people that have done it do it?
They start with one simple step.
Yeah. So he likens it. He says that video game designers know more about human psychology than anybody, and I agree with this. I've heard about video game designers talk about how they get people hooked on video games and why they're so addicting. They know more about the psychology of the human mind than I would say 90% of psychologists about what gets people hooked, and like people, same with like algorithms and stuff like that. So, they use it to their advantage, 100%. If they told you about this game that you're playing and showed you like what you had to accomplish, you'd freak out. You wouldn't want to play it because it's overwhelming. So what do? They break it down into something we all understand called levels. I'm on level 1. I'm on level 2, level 3, and they build on each other. So they just figure out, okay, let's break down the whole problem. Let's define it into levels. And so that's what Max suggests that we do, is break things down into levels. What is level 1? So what was our example here for the overwhelm trap?
What, for the breakout?
Yeah. So.
Oh, yeah. So what's the first level of the problem? And you'll, write 3 actions that you can do in 15 minutes or less.
Let's say you are like me, and like I came to this conclusion that I had to be better. I wanted to be a better man in life. I wanted to live with a purpose. I wanted to live and be proud of myself. I didn't want to feel like I wanted to end my life. How do I solve this problem, right? You can think of a couple things you can do in just 15 minutes. Let's get the name of a treatment center. Let's call my wife and let's be honest with her about where I'm at. Let's be accountable when it comes to that. Those are the first 2 things that I did. Mm-hmm. Like, if I really wanted to solve this problem, what are the first couple things I need to do? Yep. And let's just worry about that right now. That's my day. That's my week. That's my month. It's just those problems. Yeah. I think we get overwhelmed with this urgency, thinking we have to solve it all at once.
That you have to have everything together before you make any decisions. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. You need to do the small things first.
Like rebuilding our marriage. I knew that we had work to do. I knew that if we were both willing and we were both putting forth effort, then we would be okay. But the end goals seemed so insurmountable about all the things we'd have to talk about and all the trauma and pain we'd have to revisit, about rebuilding trust. Sometimes just rebuilding trust is so overwhelming. The thought of having to rebuild trust with somebody, something that you once had that you lost.
Right, because you want it immediately.
Yeah, and you don't want a new version of a relationship. You want the one you had because it was so great. Or was it? But we think we know. Mm-hmm. But what's the first thing you can do? I can start being honest every day. Mm-hmm. I can just start being honest. Even when honesty isn't what they want to hear, you can just start being honest. Yep. You can start being real. For me, like I picked a program and I started attending meetings. Find your own version of that. You don't have to do what I did, but find something like that where you're held accountable to a process of some kind. Define the process. If you want to make your own, do whatever you have to do, right? To make sure that other people know, like rebuilding trust. And then maybe it looks like being open to therapy or counseling of some kind. Maybe it looks like having like, I don't know, maybe you have a Sunday conversation where you just talk to each other for an hour about whatever it is you're going through, and be open to hear and like learn how to take criticism and feedback and put that stuff into action. That's like 3 things you can do right there. Yeah. To start this giant audacious goal of like, how do I live happily in my relationship with trust? Mm-hmm. And just do those simple things. Break it down into levels. It's like eating an elephant, just one little bite at a time. Don't get too caught up. I think with weight loss, people can do this. It's so bad.
So much. Yeah.
Think about all the things that you have to do and all the things you have to change. All you have to do is this next meal, eat X, Y, and Z. Right. And then 2 hours from now, you need to exercise for this long. Yeah. That's it. Mm-hmm. You stack days on top of each other and be okay with the process in the meantime. Yeah. And over time, you will get to where you want to be. Mm-hmm. But break it down into levels and it becomes so much easier. So if you're stuck here feeling overwhelmed, break it down into bite-sized chunks and then execute on it. Mm-hmm. Don't just, defining it's one thing, as we'll get into shortly when we talk about turning all this bullshit into reality. Yeah. Because it is just bullshit at the end of the day. We're just talking about bullshit. Yeah. Traps, everyone can nod their head and identify, oh, yeah, I felt that way. Now, what are we going to do about it? Yeah. How do we turn this shit into reality? And I think that's where we're going to head here. And that's what we're going to finish up with. So in order to move up the high agency spectrum, you have to turn this bullshit into reality. Yeah. We have to actually put this stuff into practice. So I want you to carry us out here. No, why are you giving it to me? Because you've been talking too much? Yes, man. The ship is yours. Okay. All right. So you get way too comfortable with me over here. No, I'm not too comfortable with you. I just got a little bit sidetracked. So yeah, this is where like your values are going to go from ideas to action, because we all have values, but we want it, and we all have these ideas, but we want it to go into action. And it's from vibes to reality and from talk to transformations. Because when we talk about this in all of our podcasts, it's like, it's about action, action, action.
Because you don't need more inspiration. You all have plenty of that. You need more follow through. And this is where we actually put our values into action. So bullshit versus reality chart.
Yeah. I like these.
I love this. I thought this was wonderful. You have a claimed value of I want peace, right? The bullshit is that you're still arguing at 2 a.m.
You're still posting in the community like screenshots and like
yes. You're still venting and complaining, and you're like you're stuck in the chaos still. You're still stuck in the chaos. And high agency reality is going to be walking away, blocking, saying less, stop complaining, do something about it. Because and that's hard to hear because you're like, I need to fix this. I want some clarity. I need somebody to tell me what to do. But
I need to be validated. I need all these things.
But the reason we teach people how to not give into like the bullshit conversations or the arguments is because, first of all, you can't argue with an active addict. You can't argue with somebody in early recovery. Sometimes you can't argue with anybody who just isn't in their right mind.
You can't argue with anyone that doesn't want to hear you.
No. And honestly, you can't really argue with anybody. Like we rarely argue. Like we just have conversations, right? It's all about communication.
We're just trying to find solutions generally.
Right. We're just trying to find solutions.
Together.
Yes. So if you value peace, engaging with people who are toxic or who aren't there, like you're violating your values. So in order to get into reality, quit arguing with people who you can't argue with. And that's where you're going to find your peace.
Through boundaries, usually. Like,
yeah,
I'm not going to engage in situations that affect my peace.
Like I've said,
so stop doing it.
I do tell people, yeah, anger is important. It's to fuel you, but I'm not talking about being aggressive. You know, like there is high agency in turning around and not engaging in a conversation that you know is not going to go anywhere. Matt's very good at this.
Yeah, I won't chase people down that don't want to hear me.
Nope. Well, at least not with me. Like you're very good with like shutting down the conversation because you're like, we don't need to discuss it. And I've gotten good at it too. I think we're pretty decent at it.
I have, like at work especially, I will just hang up on people.
Yeah.
Like once I've stated it clearly and I've been calm and concise about it a few times and you're still wanting to argue with me, I'm just hanging up the phone. Like I'm not going to waste my time trying to explain to someone what doesn't want to hear me. Like, listen, like I value peace in my life. That's not how you do it. That's not how you live by that value.
Right. So don't engage with it.
Like you don't want to hear me. That's totally different. All right.
Yeah.
You do you. I'm going to do me. I'm just hanging up the phone. Like I'll block somebody. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You cannot afford the rent in my head. You are not going to affect my values.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. It's hard. So
this is a value activation drill. Think of another one.
I want clarity. So let's say that your value is that you want clarity in your life. But the bullshit is that you're journaling all the time. You're just writing, you're reading, listening to podcasts, but you're not doing, but you're not actually doing the thing. So high agency reality would be making a damn decision, like actually taking action. So if you want clarity, just sitting there journaling and doing these things is not going to get you the clarity that you're looking for. It's actually taking action. And that's really difficult for a lot of people to hear, but it's the truth. Yeah, I encourage, journaling and doing these things, but also you need to take fucking action alongside of that. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not, you're just, again, ruminating. Yeah. Like you're just going to go down that path of bullshit. Another one is going to be, I want growth. I want to grow. I want somebody to grow with me. I want to evolve. I want to be better. The bullshit is like rewatching TikToks all the time, like constantly going through and scrolling. Like, guys, I'm so off of social media right now because it's bullshit. It's just all just bullshit. High agency reality is going to be joining a group, taking a program, move, do something different, actually putting the work in within your life. Quit scrolling the fucking TikTok and quit applying that and like thinking, ooh, they said something. Okay, but what did you do about it? Like, what the fuck are you going to do about it?
It's totally different.
It is.
Yeah, this is a value activation drill. So take the value that whatever it might be feels true to you right now, not to what you're supposed to value.
Ooh.
What actually feels true to you, not what you're supposed to value, but what you're craving to live into.
Yeah,
and
what value do you want? What do you need?
Like write down 5 ways that you can actually practice that today. Like what would you do to actually practice that? So let's say you value peace. What would that actually look like in your life?
Yeah.
Let's say you turn off your phone. Like I've got this new app this brick thing that completely blocks
Oh
my
yeah,
social
he
media
did this
apps.
today. It's quite interesting.
Be a great sponsor, actually. I should reach out to them. It blocks your social media apps. Like you cannot get on unless you go touch your phone to this little brick.
It's better than the Zen app thing because I can get around that so easily. Yeah, it's super easy.
Let's say that you you block or mute people who are disrespectful to you, like whoever it might be. Like just don't give them access to you.
It's
anymore.
okay to block people, guys. It's okay to mute people. It's okay.
Dude, I block people daily on social media,
right?
But I have tons of blocked people on my phone.
But even in your important relationships, but I know that I know a lot of people don't like to do this because they feel like, oh, I'm giving them the silent treatment and maybe I'm a narcissist because I'm doing this and da-da-da. But it's not. You're doing it to protect yourself, not to punish them. That's the difference. You can cancel a conversation that you're dreading that you don't owe somebody. Like sometimes if you've had a conversation over and over and over and over again and nothing changes and they're like, hey, we need to sit down and have another conversation about this. You can say, no, I don't want to have a conversation about this. I've said what I've said. Move the fuck on.
I had this guy one time that in trucking slammed on his brakes and tore up a bunch of stuff, and he owed like $10,000. And he's like, I want to sit down and talk about this. And so I said, I talked to him on the phone about it. And I was like, well, here's how the liability works, and here's how this works, and this is where they're at, and this is how it's going to work out. And he's like, okay, I understand. And like a week goes by, he doesn't pay the bill, and he calls me back. He's like, we need to sit down and have a conversation about this. I'm like, we've just fucking did that. I don't owe you a conversation about this anymore. At this point, you're avoiding it, or you're trying to talk me into something.
Exactly. That
you're
right
just trying
there.
to change my mind.
Yep.
He's a high agency guy. I give him credit, but you're just trying to manipulate me at this point to see your point of view so that you get what you want.
Yes.
At some point, you have to recognize that people are doing that, and you don't owe anyone those conversations.
Yes.
You've made your stance clear. They've made theirs. Guess what? We don't agree.
And that's a high agency move, is to being able to understand when somebody is manipulating you and you say, fuck this. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. And that specific instance, I didn't take the meeting. And the next thing I did was I emailed the attorney, said, send this guy a demand letter. Right. And that's what we did. Mm-hmm. We solved it that way. Like, I'm not going to sit here and have these conversations with you over and over and over. We disagree. And if we disagree, I'm no longer discussing it.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to personal matters like that, you don't send attorney letters, obviously, but
no, but
we
you
don't
do
talk
have to take
anymore.
But
we don't agree.
Exactly. Like, and it's going to be a pattern that's ongoing. The hard part about this, though, I do want to recognize, is that in these relationships, a lot of the times there's that love bombing, there's that cycle, there's a toxic cycle.
Oh God. Yeah.
So there's the love bombing in between these conversations. So you're wired to think that this conversation is going to be different based on their love bombing that they have like shown you. This, like this has been a pattern in your life before. But if you recognize the love bombing plus these conversations, it's not going to go another. And that's going to be important for you to recognize that pattern to say, you know what, no, I'm not going to have this conversation
not doing this anymore.
No. Another thing you can do is spend 10 minutes breathing in silence instead of doom scrolling. Breathing is such a great thing. I did an episode recently on silence and how important it is to sit in silence and how it can be very beneficial for you. Mm-hmm. Do that instead of doom scrolling on your phone, because it's going to get you more from the breathing exercises than it is to actually trying to educate yourself through doom scrolling. It's kind of crazy that we don't think that. It's the simplest thing that's actually going to help us. And then you can unfollow the couples on Instagram that trigger comparison and shame.
Unfollow us if you have to. I don't care.
Yeah. If that's something
whatever
that you don't like,
do.
whatever is going to be good for your mental health, that's great. I don't follow a lot of things that I feel like don't really go along with my values, because I'm like, I don't need to see this. It's not part of what I want in my life.
Which I will never understand, why someone will see a video they didn't like and take the time to comment on it instead of just blocking the account or not following
and moving
it,
on. If you don't like us, just move the fuck on. Why do you need
now
to?
Now that you've commented on it, guess what you're going to see more of? My dumbass.
Yeah.
Just don't comment next time.
And that's another thing about algorithm, is that the things that you comment on, the things that you like, if you're commenting and liking a lot of negative things, guess what you're going to be seeing for a long time. And they're basically changing your mind all the time on, or they're keeping you stuck in your certain mindset based on the negativity that you are commenting on or engaging with.
Yeah.
People don't recognize that.
Back in our first episode, Mac said that the best way to solve any problem, this is how we'll break it down at this point. Now we've gone through the traps. He says, ask yourself, does this problem defy the laws of physics?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, define the problem in simple sentences of drawing. And this was
drawing. Yeah.
Or drawing.
Simplify that shit. What is the problem?
This was the vague issue. And then what would make the problem worse? Ask yourself that question. What would make this problem worse?
Okay.
And then avoid that list. Next question. What would I do if I had 10 times the agency? The next thing, how can I take action on this right now?
What if can we go back for just a moment based on what our listeners say? I know this episode is going on forever and
That's
I apologize for that.
I'm not sorry for that.
Okay. No, you're not. We have the time. We actually have time today. We're doing this during the day. So let's define a problem in simple sentences or drawing. A lot of people will come to us and say that their problem is my partner is an addict.
Yeah.
Is that the problem?
Depends.
Okay.
Depends. I think this is sort of like the midwit trap.
Uh-huh.
I think it's very easy to see, obviously, that the drinking is a problem.
Okay.
Is it the primary problem?
Right.
No. But in my experience, this is one of those lessons that people have to learn on their own. It doesn't matter what you say to someone or how we present the information.
I understand
or
that.
how eloquent you are about saying that's not really the problem. Ultimately, this is something they have to figure out for themselves.
But here's something that I kind of want to challenge listeners. When it's discussing a problem, maybe this should, if you want to define a problem, maybe it's something that's actually within yourself, like in your control, something that is you. Like, what is the problem that you're having right now? It's not the addict. It's not the addiction. It's not that. It's something within yourself that maybe you can actually resolve easier. Does that make sense? To breaking it down that way.
It's way quicker to solve a problem within than it is without externally.
Right, right.
Usually if it involves someone else, right? If it's something else, like my grass could be greener, that's different. But if it's someone else, like someone else having to do a bunch of things in order for me to be happy, look within. Why do I tolerate someone treating me this way?
That, not necessarily why do I tolerate it, or like why, or not why, but the problem that you could say is that, I am lost and confused and don't know who I am anymore. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's a simple sentence that you can look at and you can dissect. How would I make the problem worse?
Yeah. Do everything.
Keep doing what you're doing, what you've been doing.
Or double down on it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's how you would make it worse. You avoid that list.
Absolutely. Do the
and
opposite.
then
Invert
what
it.
would I do if I had 10 times the agency?
Yeah.
That's when you go through all of the different things.
What would the evil twin version of me with 10 times the agency do?
Yeah. And then how can I take action on this now? I love that. I just wanted to break this down for our listeners on how you can look at what is the problem that you're having right now currently within your life.
Yeah, and
in any part of your life.
And if you're someone who
Parenting.
learns through like illustration and video, highagency.com. They're not selling anything. It's just this essay. It's all the illustrations for this flow chart that we just went through is on that website.
Right.
Really easy to see. I'm more of like a visual person.
Yeah.
So it's easy to see that and go, oh.
Yeah. I just wanted to talk it out with you.
Yeah. Okay. This was the next one. He talks about these different tools. So we went through the value activation exercise, how to actually put some of the stuff into practice, how to take the bullshit and turn it into reality.
Yeah.
I think that my favorite one, he gives another one. He talks about essentially crowdsourcing some information from the smartest people you know.
Okay.
He says, he calls it the Swedish house mafia technique. Collect the smartest people you know, tell them about your problem, lock the door, block out the outside world, and keep rallying ideas back and forth like a tennis game. Take immediate action on the best ideas. This is how, when I work with people, this is generally how we solve problems in the businesses. This is how we solve problems. You get people who aren't attached to their idea. There's no ego. And we kick the best ideas back and forth over and over and over until we have the best ones. And then we execute on those.
Okay.
I think when it comes to relationships, careful about who you choose for experts. I think that can be rather difficult to find
Absolutely.
those people.
Yeah.
But I think one of the best ones we can do, we've talked about the story raiser, as it's called here. Alex Hormozy put it simply. He said, when stuck between two possible outcomes, stuck between which decision to make, choose the one that's the story that you'd prefer to tell for the rest of your life. I think that if you just think about it, what's the best story here? What's the best outcome here? What is the best possible story that I could tell when I'm 70? I think that you shoot for that. That's how you turn this into reality, is you have to figure out what is the actual ideal outcome with the best possible story look like? How would I get there? So if you're stuck between two potential options, which is the better story? I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah, that's great.
Generally, the one that is the best story is going to be the more difficult of the two. It's going to be the one that requires more sacrifice. It's going to be the one that requires more risk. It's going to
More
be
scars.
Yeah, more scars along the way, all of that stuff. But it's generally the right thing to do. It's just not easy.
Yeah.
It is simple, but it's not easy.
Right.
There's a difference there.
Yep.
There's a difference. But please go check out highagency.com. It is, it's amazing. Another thing that he recommends is asking for help. Here's what he does. This is really interesting. He has 3 mentors.
Okay, but
people that he really respects in his life. And he starts by thinking about a good way to write a description for the problem for each one of these people. And before he sends it, he predicts what they'll say. And then he goes back to update what he wrote to address these points in advance. He says, finally, I again try to predict what they'll say to that based on what they've said in the past and what I know of their philosophy. Then after the whole process, I realize I don't need to bother them at all because the answer is now clear. None of them know they are actually my mentors.
I love that.
Yeah, because it came from Derek Sivers.
Because it says ask for help, but you're not really asking for help. You're solving it on your own based on how these people are your mentors without them even knowing they're your mentors.
Yep, and then come up with an excuse that you would give them. How would they respond to that? So think about that and then write it again. And then
I love that.
At that point, you recognize, holy shit, the answer was in me the whole time.
Yes.
Which is true.
Yes.
Usually is.
Yes.
We already know what to do.
This is partially why I don't tell people what to do specifically. Because I
never do.
I feel like they can do it themselves. Anyway. Like it's almost like what would Matt and Paige do in this situation in a way? Like you can think about that. Like, oh, how would they respond to this? Oh, well, how would they respond to this? Or how would even whoever it is that you're looking up to, but I'm just saying us because we're on here and like people who take our program and stuff. That's how you figure out what you want to do and what you need to do. And you really just figured it out on your own.
Yeah, you did.
It's kind of cool.
You've already been exposed to those points of view that can change the way that you think and the way your thoughts go.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's all there.
Yeah.
It's all there. My favorite story, he talks about a change of perspective. This was just great. I love this. Okay, imagine this super, super wealthy guy, like multimillionaire in New York, comes into a bank. He's about to go to Europe for 2 weeks on business. So he goes into a bank and he asks for a $5,000 loan. He says, I need to borrow $5,000. The bank officer says, okay, that's fine, but I'll need some kind of security. Like you're not even a customer at this bank. So he hands him the keys to a $250,000 Rolls Royce. He says, here you go. The bank officer's shocked, but he's like, okay. He takes the car's collateral. The man leaves, and then the bank president and their colleagues are all laughing their asses off as this guy just used a $250,000 Rolls Royce to secure a $5,000 loan that also charges interest, right? So they drive the Rolls Royce to the underground parking garage underneath the bank. 2 weeks later, the guy returns from Europe and he repays $5,000 plus the interest, which comes out to $15.41. The loan officer says, sir, I've got to tell you, we're a little puzzled. You're a multimillionaire. Why would you need a $5,000 loan? The man replies, where else in New York City can I park my car for 2 weeks for only $15.41? That is high agency.
It's crazy. It's a lot of work, but
that is high agency. I absolutely love that. And I think that there's so much about this line of thinking that can help all of us in every single aspect of our lives.
Yep.
Incredibly useful. Thanks to George Mack for the idea, for inspiring this conversation in the episode. Please go check out George Mack. He's got a newsletter as well. I think it's georgemack.com. There might be a hyphen in there. I'm not sure. But either way, you can follow him on Twitter or X, actually. And he's a guy that I've read for a while now, and I would encourage anyone to go read his stuff. He's amazing. He's been on podcasts. You can search his name in podcast apps, and you'll see him pop up. He's greatness. But this website, highagency.com, I think has really distilled down what it is that we're always after and what we're trying to do, especially within our program, to help people make choices that align with their values and live by those things and gain confidence in the decisions they make. And I promise you, it's contagious within yourself. As soon as you start to do it, you will become so empowered, so proud of who you are. You'll ever wonder how in the world you ever questioned yourself in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing to watch people grow this way. And we've seen this more times than I can count. And it's always a privilege to watch.
It is.
It truly is.
It is.
Thank you for everyone that has shared their experience with this with us, because it keeps us going and reminds us of why it is that we do this and suscept ourselves to online abuse. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's all we've got.
Well,
Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I did. There's he did post a video within this essay as bonus material where this person, they're at they're like at a festival, I think, or a concert, and this guy stands up in the middle of the field where people are sitting and he's just dancing his ass off, and he didn't care. Like, it's not like great dancing. It's just him dancing by himself, and somebody's recording him. And it's like, okay, this is weird. This is awkward. Nobody else is doing it. And then within a few minutes, somebody else comes and dances with him. And then a few minutes later, more people come. And then at the end of it, the entire group of people, thousands of people are dancing with this guy. That's me. Like, I am one of those people.
Yes, sir.
I will go to like a wedding, or I will go somewhere and I will like get my ass out there and I will dance, and I don't give a shit if nobody else is dancing. Like, I will be the first one on the dance floor. I'm like, come on, at least somebody, maybe you want to come with me and dance, but I will get up there and do it because I don't care. That's high agency.
Yeah. It's almost like the guy that starts the wave at the baseball games.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, because people look at you like you're stupid, but then 10 minutes later, they're joining in with you.
Yeah.
And even if they don't, I don't really care. I'm enjoying myself. And that guy was enjoying himself. He did not give a shit. And it was amazing. I actually cried when I watched that video.
It was so cool.
I did. I teared up because I was like, that is so powerful. And he didn't care if anybody was going to dance with him. But it did end up doing something. Like, he opened that door to let people have some happiness and joy. And I fucking loved it.
It's greatness, man.
The energy was amazing.
Yeah, it's near the bottom of the page. Check that video out.
Yeah. There's some great videos.
That's high agency in a video.
Mm-hmm.
Again, can be used in beautiful ways, can be used in sadistic and horrible ways too.
Yes.
But I think that you know the difference. And I hope that you use it well. I hope that you use it well, and I hope that you grow from it. And it's a wonderful idea. And thanks for hanging out and listening to our thoughts on it. It's been fun. This has been a fun one. I enjoyed this.
I did too.
All right. Well, that's all we got. Until next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Paige.
And we'll see you.
Bye.